Hey, this is Misery Loves Company, a weekly social reading series hosted by miserytourism.com. Every Friday, we welcome outsider and transgressive writers to come and share their work with us. And this is a Friday like any other, so we're going to get rolling here. Just at the top, we only have 3 people signed up to read for tonight. So if anyone would like to read during the open mic, just keep that in mind. And as we get close to the end here, you can let us know in the chat if you'd like to read. All right, first up tonight is Keith.
Okay, thanks, William. So the piece that I have tonight is titled Remembering the Memories. Remembering the memories. Thank you for your service. It was by chance, not planned, that he ended up on YouTube that morning. Somehow he started scrolling through his history, not knowing how far back it would go, probably 16 years. The randomness of a mind came into focus. The blurred memories became clear. Maybe it would be good to delete the history, an archive of a life. Maybe, maybe not. It was the videos of Outpost Man Bear Pig that slowed down the scrolling. Some remembered, some forgotten, some never seen as he went deeper and deeper. It was flashbacks to 2010, flashbacks to 2008, flashbacks to a time remembered. Memories blocked, memories resurrected, memories atop memories. It never forgets. It was the outpost that the Marine was stationed at in 2010, Man Bear Pig, Helmand Province, Afghanistan, captured forever. But before Man Bear Pig, there was 2008, the outskirts of Fallujah, and the memorial service to the Marine's friend, the only casualty of the 1st Battalion, 3rd Marines' 6-month deployment in the waning days of Iraq. It was the IED in the road leading into Fallujah from the unnamed outpost. It was the only fatal IED that detonated in the 6 months of travel on the road. The only casualty of the 6-month deployment. It was fate. It was tragic. It was the reality of war. As America mourned the 3rd month of her chronic recession and deepening personal depression, a Marine died. He was the first friend. It was 17 months later, 2010, Man Bear Pig, one of several firefights that were captured on camera, recorded for the internet and history. The pops of the rounds, the overhead air support, the remains of the Taliban fighters, the exclamations of "get some." Everybody got some that day. It may or may not have been a fatal engagement. It was undated. It was buried somewhere between the 2nd and the 8th casualties, the friends that didn't make it back. It was the good times, the bad times, the fun times, the sad times. The times of leave, when some things never leave. Dad, it's like everyone just wants to go shopping at the mall and watch the Kardashians on TV. No one cares anymore. That may seem true, son, but most people do care. Most people will always care. It was the beginning of the end for some, and for others, it was the end of the beginning. It was a time past, it was a time present, and for some, it would be a time future. Semper Fi.
Sorry. Excuse me. Sorry, Keith. I didn't want to interrupt you in case you weren't done. Now, did you DM me to say that you had a second piece for tonight?
I do have a second piece, but it's nothing like that one, though.
Oh, okay. So before you move on to your second piece, sorry, I needed to clear my throat there. Keith, I love this piece. Oh man, I love what was it? The times of leave when some things never leave. Like what a perfect way to put like PTSD, right? Like what a really poetic way to put it. And of course, it is Veterans Day. And as usual, Keith, the way this piece unfolds, it's initially so gentle, right? Before you get to all the pain and all the heartache and all the like tragedy and the post-traumatic stress and everything. I love how it starts with like scrolling through a history of YouTube videos, right? There's this like meandering quality to it that then arrives at something like deeply sad and deeply tragic. And I think that kind of almost in some ways like mimics like the experience of post-traumatic stress, right? That sense of like you can just be immersed in a completely mundane activity and then suddenly bam, the war is right fucking there, right? And I love how you capture that through like the YouTube feed, through like going back through like the like or shared cataloged, excuse me, memories on the internet, right? It's such a great way to capture and conceptualize that
Yeah.
that
Thank you.
experience that is otherwise so immaterial, right? So abstract. Anyway, it's a great piece, Keith. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. You want me to read the second piece now?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Might as well, right?
Excuse me. I just have a question for Keith.
Yes.
Keith, what is your background related to like military and war stuff?
My son was a Marine, or is a Marine, once a Marine, always a Marine. That's my only background.
Oh, and is he doing okay?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good to hear that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Keith.
thanks. Thanks. So here's the second piece. It's a little bit longer, a little bit different. The bug in his head. A small bug, no longer than half an inch, appears on the carpet just outside the open bathroom door. It appears to be walking normally, as one would expect to see a bug walk. There's a transitional piece of tile from the carpet in the hallway to the tiled bathroom floor. It is the threshold, 2 inches wide, a half inch thick, with a beveled edge angled towards the tiled floor. The hallway carpet is a tight weave, firm and of a blended color of light tans and cream. Looking across the bathroom towards the door, she sees that the bug's color appears to be a dark brown, maybe even black. If it were not in motion, the bug might be assumed to be a bit of trash or debris, maybe a piece of a leaf or bark or even mud from a shoe. The bug moves from the carpet onto the threshold. Slowly, it eases across the smooth, beveled edge of the threshold onto the tiled bathroom floor. 5 exposed incandescent lights across the top of the vanity spotlight the bug on the light blue-gray tile. It can be determined now that the bug is a deep chocolate brown color just on the edge of black. The bug begins to move slowly across the tile, and when about a foot into the room, in a choreographed movement, it rolls over onto its back. Its legs begin to dance in the air. They are racing in time, going nowhere. There's no other movement of the body, forward or back, right or left. Minutes pass. The dance continues. As she leaves the bathroom, she steps over the bug. The bug is still in the same position and place with its dancing legs. She turns the lights off and walks down the hallway towards the family room. She can hear the breathing. Time passes, maybe a half hour, and the bathroom is revisited. From the hall, reaching around the doorway, she turns the incandescent vanity lights on. The room goes from night to day. Looking down from above, the bug has not moved from its earlier position, but now the legs are motionless. Everything is still. A slight touch of the bug with a finger confirms the observation. The bug is dead. It is lying amongst a cemetery of dead bugs. The day passes like all of her days pass, slowly bleeding into the night. Before leaving the family room for the evening, she thinks about the phone calls that she'll make the next morning. The entire world is celebrating tonight, like they do once every year. She leaves the family room and walks down the carpeted hallway. She looks into the bathroom as she passes by. It is dark. When she enters the bedroom, she walks slowly towards their bed. She lays down in the bed, covering herself with a light blanket. Her legs feel itchy and she scratches. She convinces herself that the dry air from the heat causes the itchiness, not bugs in her bed. Those bugs had been exterminated, though she never saw the evidence. She had learned that they were microscopic and died from the invisible poison. Tomorrow, she would turn down the gas on the space heaters. That usually helped her itchiness. Extending her arm, she turns off the lamp on the bedside table. She welcomes the darkness as she listens to the noises coming from the family room. The gasping, haunting sounds echo through the house, steadily rising and falling. But she knows that tomorrow night will be much quieter. The noises of tonight are foreshadowing the future. It's going to be a new year. As she lays in bed, she thinks again about making the next morning's telephone calls. 2 pills, washed down with a glass of water on the nightstand, helps calm her racing thoughts. She feels her body and mind fading into another unfamiliar world. The night passes, 1 year rolling into another. Awakening, she looks at the bedside clock. The house is still and silent. The lonely curtain in the bedroom window is brightening. The sun is rising. Sitting up in bed, she scratches her legs, then slowly moves her feet over the edge of the bed and onto the floor. The carpet feels good on the soles of her feet. Slowly, she rises up, then walks towards and down the hallway. The silence is deafening. When she reaches the bathroom door, she reaches around and turns on the light. The 5 incandescent lights across the top of the vanity respond. Before she moves further, she inspects the floor and determines it to be safe. All the bugs are still dead. She walks over towards the toilet, then sits down, relieves herself, and looks over towards the doorway. A bug, about 2 inches long, clearly mocha brown, walks across the tiled threshold and into the bathroom. She watches closely as it heads towards her, stopping abruptly just before reaching her feet. It rolls over onto its back, and its legs start moving violently in space. When she is assured that the bug will not progress further, she wipes herself and flushes the toilet. She cautiously steps over the bug and turns towards the sink. She washes her hands, looks at herself in the mirror, then dries her hands. She walks towards the door and out into the hallway. Leaving the bathroom light on, she looks back and sees the bug in the same position, on its back with its legs still violently shaking. She watches the bug for a few minutes and sees the motion of its legs stop. She carefully walks over and touches the bug. There is no movement. The bug is dead. She turns and walks slowly out of the bathroom and down the hallway into the family room. As she enters the room, she looks towards the bed, the head of the bed flush against the wall, still angled at 30 degrees, just like it was when she left last night. A flashing red light on the monitor beside the bed catches her eye. Walking over to the bedside, she sees that the monitor display is void of data. The volume on the alarm is still turned off. She feels a tear run down her cheek. When she sees the peaceful expression on his face, she smiles. He is dead. Everything had come together perfectly. There would be no repercussions from society, no punishment for the action that they had agreed upon long ago. Everything would appear as a natural consequence. There would be no need for an autopsy, and cremation would settle any future concerns, though they both knew that would be a non-issue. Reaching towards the telephone beside the bed, she picks up the receiver and begins dialing the first number on their list, 911. Thanks.
Oh my God, Keith. You're right that these are two like profoundly different stories, but I appreciate that. Like even in style, this is so different. This one is so like clinical in the way it's written. And I love like the sheer amount of detail about this environment that you have in this story and how much of that detail almost feels like it's on bug level, right? Like you get at things that are these like tactile things that you'd almost have to be a bug to notice, like the texture of the carpet or the tiling of the floor. Like so much of this is like this story is like on the floor or on the wall, you know, and it's about like it's about like this these really substantial concrete things, like the material things that things are made of. And because of that, because it's so clinical, because it's so rooted in material reality, like it becomes really chilling for the reader, right? And you know that something terrible is coming before you ultimately arrive at it at the end, right? You just know something is wrong. And it's so subtle the way you get at that, because it's not like you like there are no jump scares in this story, right? Like even though it's sort of a horror story at some level, there are no jump scares. There's no like real heavy supernatural stuff or anything. It's just this tight focus on these like small details of reality. And I like I said, this bug level shit that really makes the reader, or in this case, the listener, feel like icky, feel like something is off. And then of course you arrive the way you arrive at it at the end with another body that is not that is not a bug, right? Is just, I don't know, it's good. It's so good. And because that body manifests itself in a way that by the end like feels bug-like, feels like the dead bugs that we've been seeing throughout. I don't know. It's really good, Keith. This is it's a fantastic story and in a very new style for you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks. Thanks everybody for listening.
I like how you get at the bug anxiety, like bug. I put in the chat, but bug OCD really. You know, like going back to check, like, is he dead? Is he, you know, is that one dead before you go into bed? that was really, really true to life, I feel.
Thanks, Rudy.
Yeah, thank you, Keith. So, Rudy, you might as well stay unmuted because you're next. And I'm looking at the list here, and it says you've got a short film. Is that right? I had until I opened up this document today, I had no idea what you were bringing to the table.
Well, actually, that's not entirely true.
Oh.
If you read the document.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Let me read what it says in the document. Okay, in the place where we usually just put the name of the author, it says a really pretentious film director, maybe Lars von Trier. Is that how you say it? Or some dude who makes bespoke bespoke artisan cream pie vids for the art on OnlyFans.
So,
And then it says that person is presenting a short film.
yeah.
I'm sorry that I jumped to the conclusion that that person was you, Rudy, even though you're the
Oh,
only
yeah.
other person who can edit this document. And even though every week, instead of putting your fucking name down, you put some weird shit down. But no, okay.
Huh.
So
I mean,
who
I just
who
wanted
is it?
I just wanted to give them their due.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, I'm gonna present I guess it's a game or something. I don't know. So is it okay with everybody if I share my screen?
Yes. Yeah, it's okay.
And here we go. So this game is called A Serious Film. Basically, and the reason why I put film in there is basically we're gonna make a short little 60-second short film with miniatures. It'll probably be completely incomprehensible actually. But first, let's read a couple quotes from some cinematic luminaries here. I refuse to accept a reality concocted by someone else, stuck under their control for the rest of my days. And that is Alma from Ingmar Bergman's Persona. Next quote: video games cannot ever be art, but my EVGA GeForce RTX 3080 is state of the art. So I guess that's a paradox. Anyway, suck my fucking dick. Roger Ebert. Okay, so yeah, let's go, I guess. We're not playing around here, as you can see. We're making art, so yeah. So this first screen is a bunch of randomly generated fake quotes from the movie we haven't made yet. The idea is that players are supposed to use these for inspiration during the next part of the game, where we'll actually be posing little miniature things on the board and shit. So I'll read them. A niggardly film about niggardly loves that beats rich races with its rich feeling. Lorena Bobbitt, The Golden Saucer. Complete and total queerness. Umbral plays, amazingly sweet. It incriminates the audience constantly. Francisco Franco, The National List. Are you umbral or violent? This film will answer that definitively, and fuck all your umbral races. Morgana Duarden, TDCMC. Okay, so yeah, so these are basically open to interpretation, but the idea of the game is you definitely want to try to integrate them into your movie to the best of your ability, which I'll probably not. I'll try to do it, but we'll see. So now let's give the movie a name here. What do you guys what do you think is a good name? Just shout it out.
All right, guys, let's have some names here. Put them in the chat or just shout them out, as Rudy said. Pacific Rim, Tyler says. Days in Umbra. I do feel like they used Umbral a couple of times here. Micah said Dick Lozenge goes upstate.
Well,
that's, I don't know, Rudy. You've got
Yum.
I
like Days of Umbra.
Gigi says Dolezal's Revenge. Excuse me, I got tongue tied on that.
Okay, what? How do you spell Dolezal?
So DOLEZAL''. Demetrius says Umbralius queer.
Umbralius.
That sounds like a Harry Potter character.
I don't fit on things. It does. It's okay if we got Dolezal's Revenge.
Okay.
That's a good title for a movie, a very serious film. You know, that's what we're making. So these are our actors here. These little miniature guys. We have Coitus, Joe, who's totally not named after Tilda Swinton, and our camera. This is a camera. The actors on the board and get them into some cinematic positions. Master Daddy goes there. Joe's going here, I guess. I don't know anything about mise en scene or any bullshit like that. So I don't know. Is John Padua available? Is the John, bro? Give me
Johnny Holly. Wait, let me get
Johnny
my sunglasses
Hollywood.
on. Let me get my sunglasses on. What do you need to know?
I just need to know what's the best place. How do I place these to make the mise en scene the strongest or whatever? Like the is that like the feng shui of Hollywood shit? I don't know.
So you want as much tension in you at all times during movie. So you want it.
Okay.
You want on those things.
Yep.
Those things with the circle. You want one character on one side, and then the another character has to be on the other side. They got to be different. You know, you got to split them up.
Okay. So I'm gonna have them like this. Like we'll have these guys kind of like in the front. Like this guy is at the front. Tilda. Yeah, we'll put her like right there, I guess.
Oh, yeah. She's
that
in
look
the
good?
hole. She's in like
Yeah.
she's lower. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So all right, so this is our camera, and as you can see, there's like this little field of view thing here, this purple part. And anything inside that will be recorded, which will leave us some of the actors. You know, we can leave people out of the frame, but since John thinks that we want, you know, the power position that we've got, that's what we're gonna do. So let's get recording here. As you can see, the red dot indicates recording on all these miniatures. So let's move them around, and this is the time we have left to record. Or how much film we have left. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I'm just moving them around, moving shit on the board here, like every director does, just moving stuff. And as you can see, we can play with the lighting here and color information. I guess we could, in theory, make some kind of Wes Anderson Frankenstein bullshit that would look ugly and stupid, just like Wes Anderson shit. And now we can also do like zoom effects, zoom in on her, zoom in on Tilda, zoom in on Master Daddy. Fuck yeah. And we can also do effects. So like if I double click here, I just made fire. Okay. Those are actually random, so I don't know what those are going to do at any given time. So that could be helpful for like creating some weird cinematography shit, you know, or calling attention to a fight cloud to certain parts of the environment here. So if I want to zoom in on this tree, hey, that's a tree, let's go. But we can do all that with just the mouse and double click and stuff. Okay, so I'm going to move these characters a little bit more. What I think I'm going to do is kind of try to move them in some kind of pattern so it gives the illusion of movement when we actually do the thingy. So I'm going to try and move them in like a circle here, circle, 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 do. And there we go. And we just ran out of film. Okay, so film ran out, so now it's time to fuck with the reels. Now this camera isn't an ordinary camera, so it actually records each miniature actor to a different track. So the tracks, the people are like split. So you have 4 tracks. You have Coitus, Joe, Master Daddy, and Tilda all recorded to different locations, different tracks, basically, that we can play with. And that's just so that it gives us some leeway to move shit around post-recording so that we can kind of play with it until it looks like something resembling a narrative, or maybe not, because maybe we don't want a narrative. Maybe we just want some stupid bullshit. But we can do all that with the mouse. So basically, you just drag and drop this shit. We can move all this. So you can actually choose where people appear. So let's say, so we start that. Let's play here. So this guy's the first to appear, and that person will pop in, because if you look at the timeline, you know, it's just like a YouTube video or something like that. And these blue and yellow marks, these show where the effects are. And this here is your color reel. So this is changing color based on, you know, what the color of the color reel thing is. There is your zoom effects. Yep, gratuitous zoom, and some flame effects. And so once we're happy with how the film looks, we can actually go up to this button up here, the final cut button. And then if you click that, let me just restart this. Click that for the final cut. You see that puts in the title, Dolezal's Revenge. And it puts these black bars here so that, you know, it becomes all cinemagical and stuff. Yeah, so basically, also we have the quotes here so we can see what was actually quoted. So these buttons here won't show up in the final film, but if I were to start the final cut, basically I just want to start the play, and that'll play the film, and then it's going to have everything that all the edits that I made and stuff will come to fruition, and the little movie's going to play. And then eventually, once it ends, I can save it to my computer by clicking this. So I'm just going to do that right now. And as you can see, I don't know if can you guys see this this box that came up?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. So basically I'm just gonna save that as whatever. Yeah, so at this point, the director, which is me, watches the film we made here, and then they designate some actors, right? So other players of the game, normally this would be like a 4-player game that you'd play in like your living room or whatever, just sitting on the couch. And you designate some actors to play these characters, right? So Coitus, Master Daddy, Tilda, whoever. And these other players get to voice those characters on the screen. And I won't ask for volunteers tonight because I know people get stage fright and that shit and don't want to embarrass themselves. But in a real actual play of this game, 4 people would basically be given instructions by the director in the form of a 1-word direction. And the director would have them basically give a dialogue performance of what these characters are saying. So one thing I didn't show is actually if you bump these guys into each other, they will they'll make these little speech bubbles. I think I can actually go back and show that. Actually, hold on. Let me go here. I'm just gonna mash some shit in there. But no, like, so if you bump these guys together, like, they make speech bubbles. So like, and these will appear on the film too. So those are kind of inspiration for the actors to act on. Like, hey, oh, this is a penis. You know, this guy has got fucking, that guy saying no. This other person has a cross there. So like, I don't know, but yeah, basically that would be actors. So like, for example, like I might say, William, you know, your stage direction is Ebonics, right? So you might have the character Marlon, right? And it's an appropriate name for Ebonics, eh? But you might have Marlon, and like, so you might, you know, do whatever you want, but you got to take my stage direction into account when you do it. Yeah, and the dialogue is going to be bad and really cheesy and probably, frankly, obscene and absurd too. And once that's done, the film's a wrap, and then we go to the next player, and they repeat the same process. And so after everybody's made a film, each director gets to give a little spiel wrapping things up, saying like, well, you know, I believe my serious film accomplished X, Y, and Z for whatever they want to say, you know, like, you know, I believe that this film about cannibalism accomplished this through these goals or this shit that happened on the screen, et cetera, et cetera. So then comes the final segment where everybody gets to nominate the films for accolades, which is basically shitty little Oscars for, you know, miniatures. So you have like categories like best actor. So basically who hammed it up the most with their shitty one-liners and, you know, their 1-word directions. Best cinematography, which would be like, you know, best placement of the actors on the screen, or, you know, how do you, you know, the mise-en-scene, man, the fucking man, you know, the cinematography, the magic. But then you have like stuff like best picture, and best picture would be something like the most interesting or hammy post-film spiel, and basically who used the prompts best or who was able to justify the prompts best anyway. And then best effects, you have shit like, you know, best zoom, best use of the zoom, best use of shit like that, you know, who used the special effects the most. So the way the nomination process works is you go through the categories and everybody puts another player's name into a bag. All those bags are sealed. And once you have all the nominations in all the categories, then one person goes and draws a single name from each bag, and they announce the winners just like the Oscars. There's no score, nothing like that. Just whoever wins in a category wins that category. So it's possible that you could win like Best Actor for appearing in somebody else's film. You know, let's say you win it for Marlon or whatever, and then you're in another film, you're Maggie or whoever it is. You could win it twice, and then you could also win like special effects Oscar. And then you could have somebody else totally win Best Picture or whatever. So everybody could win in different categories. But yeah, so the last thing I want to show is the Oscars are always contentious. You know, there's always snubbery and Academy favoritism and all that bullshit. So the last thing I want to show is this screen, which is the snubbed deal. So this is a mechanic I call snub retaliation. So if you think another player's movie was snubbed hard, you can enter a single word in this box, and these are the words you're using. And every player gets a chance to do this. And these are all words that appear in the quotes, the quotations, you know, that inspire the movie. So if you thought that, say John made a war movie, right? And that war movie, they snubbed it because, you know, Hollywood, you know, the guild or whatever didn't like war movies. Or say somebody made a science fiction movie, you know, they snub it because, hey, science fiction films don't fucking win Oscars. So you put in science here, you type that in, and so you type it, and somebody else says, yeah, okay, science, yeah, that makes sense. So you got a couple of votes for science, and you got like war. And then basically what this does is it makes it so that when you go back to the home screen here, this screen, it's going to make it more likely that those things will appear. So actually, in this case, they didn't, you know, because we only had a couple of people vote, and the votes were kind of split. It doesn't look, actually, war did come up once. So yeah, it basically makes it more likely for things to appear on this screen, and therefore influences the type of movies that people make. So if you want to see a lot of war movies, then hey, you know, you should say that war got snubbed at the Oscars. So that's pretty much it. But yeah, does anybody have any questions or anything? That's pretty much how it works. It's basically a goofy game where you make little short films, and yeah.
I would like to direct everyone's attention to the chat where we are trying to get together a group to run this.
Okay.
Like not during this call, but later.
Right.
Like right now, that group includes Mullane, John, Rudy, presumably.
I may not be
Calvin.
invited.
I don't know if Calvin actually volunteered or if Mullane just took the fact that he said hi as volunteer.
I thought that's what he meant.
Open mic is at the. I put you on the list, Demetrius. Open mic's at the end.
Yeah.
You'll find out when it's time.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So you should absolutely play this later. But Rudy, man, this is awesome. This is wild shit. I need to ask, what inspired this? I mean, it's pretty.
Well,
I mean, it's pretty clearly a subversion of. I mean, you even reference it in the beginning, right? Of Roger Ebert's claim that video games couldn't be art by like reducing all of the gamesmanship around the creation of a movie to a game, right? But like, what inspired this? Where did this?
Well, actually, yeah, like most of the things I make, it wasn't a particular thing. It's actually the mechanic, the recording mechanic. And if you've been watching my Twitter, you know this, that I've had a couple tries with that. Like I had posted a couple of tries that I'd done earlier. Originally, it was going to be just a pretty traditional board game where you record your pieces, and then you use that system, you know, the reels and whatever, to move them around, so that they do something. I don't know, but while I was playing with it, I thought, oh yeah, that's like film. That seems like obvious, right? And you know, that's kind of what inspired the whole thing. I thought, like, well, you know, making like the real, I didn't want it to take too long, so the idea of short films came up. So I was like, yeah, you know, you're basically, at first it was like you're going to be making a trailer for a movie, and I thought, well, just make a short film or whatever and have it be like ultra pretentious, you know, just completely just like the worst type of shit. You know, like I don't really know. I'm not trying to insult Lars von Trier. I actually like some of his stuff, but like I'm not trying to insult your man Bergman either. Although that
Best
actually
not be. You best not be.
that quote is actually not from Persona, as you probably could tell.
I was actually trying to figure out whether it was or not. I'm going to be
Yeah.
honest. Obviously, like I knew the Roger Ebert one was
Yeah.
completely fabricated, just because I'm pretty sure Roger Ebert didn't actually know what graphics card. But
Yeah,
I
no,
was trying to figure out whether the Persona one was real or not, and I wasn't sure, if I'm going to be
Oh,
honest.
okay. Well, that's good. That means I did my job, because actually I lied. It is from Persona, but it's from Persona the video game, not Persona. It's Goro Aker. I don't know how to pronounce his fucking name, but it's one of the characters from Persona. And no, so basically, like what inspired this was just pretty much my own inability to make a real board game. So I thought, well, yeah, I have the mechanics.
That's so good. It's I would never have is it from the original Persona or Persona
Persona
5?
5. Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
never have fucking guessed that. That's really good. But no, man, the recording mechanic is fascinating here, and I love the idea of using that as a jumping off point for a kind of constrained tabletop role-playing game, right? Because I
Yeah.
think a lot of the time, one of the challenges for like more free-form role-playing games, or more like strictly role-playing based role-playing games, is that like the sheer amount of time and possibility becomes an obstacle. It leads to people
Yeah.
becoming overwhelmed, right?
Yeah. No.
And
Definitely.
here, the time constraint and the little prompts, like you have to be fast, which means it's going to be silly, but which
Oh
also
yeah.
means that people are not going to have the ability to become self-conscious about the fact that they're being silly. And that's the real like mind killer there, right? Is that
Fear.
if
Yeah.
you
Fear
give
is the
time
mind killer.
when role playing to become self-conscious,
Yeah.
you're gonna stop, right?
And
If you, at any point you're able to think, wow, I'm being goofy, then like some part of you will lock up. And so this keeps that going, and also has like enough like meta elements to prevent it from being too like it has enough structural elements, I guess, to prevent it from just locking up from being too abstract or whatever. So I think
no,
I don't
I
know.
hope so.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Oh, I was just gonna say, like, the what you hit it pretty much on the head, like with the time constraint, because one thing with role playing is you don't want people to be in character too much. It's kind of a party game, so you don't want people to have to maintain that too long, or else it leads to stress and that kind of stuff. I've seen that in other games that I've designed and other things. So I mean, like the idea is basically to keep it light, keep it funny, and low investment. Basically, low investment for is the idea of making a movie. It's like, oh yeah, but it's gonna be stupid though, so that's basically the whole point. So
Right. And exactly, it cuts against, I guess, both the pretensions of film and the pretensions of role-playing games, right? There's no time for
a good way to
either.
put it. Yeah. Well, thanks for letting me do it.
Yeah, awesome, man. Thank you. So, next up is Gabe.
That was fucking awesome, Rudy. I guest edited. We have this local, our local poetry magazine, Troy Needles. The editor asked me to guest edit the all songwriter issue. So I did, and it was a lot tougher than I thought. Like, you think dealing with writers is hard, try dealing with musicians. It's like, I wouldn't wish it on anybody. Either they're like flaky or like care too much. Like, anyway, I'm gonna read my entry in here. I'm like trying to entertain the thought of getting Jail Weddings back together next year. So I published some future Jail Weddings lyrics in here. First one's called Heaven is for Dying. I'm on strike. I won't get into the car unless you are driving. All those times I screamed to give me the keys, now I am retiring. Remember when the horizon was all mine? It felt like I was flying. But now I got both feet on the ground. I know, heavens for dying. There will be no more midnight drives for another drink. No combing carpets for euphoria unparalleled. We don't have to pass our dozens of roadside graves to know myself and my town all too very well. I've got a part of me like a phantom limb. It's my whole body like an unrung bell. You got to shake the sense into me on nights like this, or else the morning comes and we'll be frozen still. When there's too much illuminated, sometimes I got to turn out the lights. We will get scorched by the sun, like we'll get spied on by the moon. And sometimes they'll eclipse like our lips kiss, like a Venn diagram of doom. Don't look above, it'll burn your eyes. There's enough here to hypnotize. We may be stuck here on earth, but it's not for the lack of trying. Heaven is for dying. This one's about the time I got overpowered by a succubus in Oklahoma. It's called Never Going Back to Tulsa. We blew into the city down rows of weeping willow trees. While the wind made them all wave on that day, they were weeping just for me. Between a hedonistic limbo and the chastity of a dry county, how did we drink their whole keg dry and remain paralyzed by near sobriety? I am never going back to Tulsa. I can't return this cross I bear. I am never going back to Tulsa. Something happened to me there. We fell in with the locals. Some saw us as an opportunity. We gave them all of our money to accelerate our rate in purgatory. They returned with a creature whose features screamed ambiguity. Night seemed to fall instantly, the sun eclipsed by her booming obesity. So I'm never going back to Tulsa, though they stole enough liquor to kill me. I'm never going back to Tulsa. It all erased my night's memory. Then sure as shit, the morning hit, with all its piercing light flickering. We all lay in the strangest ways, twisted like a shiver-inducing crime scene. I dreamt my LA woman's lips were paying lovely tribute to me. I awoke to that creature's head, bouncing where my manhood was supposed to be. So I'm never going back to Tulsa. What happened in Tulsa won't leave me. No length of shower or brand of bleach will ever make my head remotely clean. So I'm never going back to Tulsa. Now, what is the moral of this story? When those weeping willows wave, just tell them, hey, I was just leaving. Is the last one. It's called Lucky. I am a fisherman tangled in my own net, and tonight I'm overeating my own bait. I'm a spider, but then I'm trapped in my own web because I left all my prospective prey to fate. Who's gonna get lucky when they go home with their own damn selves tonight? Are you gonna get lucky, or do you still need your handheld when you cross the street? Save all your money. When you're drinking alone, they will assume you're too occupied with all your hungry ghosts, more than enough mouths to feed. I am an alien encountering my first human, revealing what happened to humankind. I'm a ghost howling mute, cause of death feeling cute, before I decided to leave all this earthbound flesh behind. Who's gonna get lucky when they drive themselves home in the lane on the right? Are you gonna get lucky and see in double vision when I burn away? Win the lottery when you lose the fear of going quietly into the night with all your hungry ghosts. There's only one problem when you turn out the lights. Only one heart that screams, only one heart to fight. The deceptive horizon from all that space on your bed. A new flat earth theory. I insist I will fall off the edge. That's it.
Gabe, would it be too on the nose to say that these rock?
Oh, thanks, man.
They're fucking
Absolutely
good. They're good.
phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. I love them.
What I love here is the fact that I almost wish that I didn't know going in that they were song lyrics, because I kind of wish I had had the chance to guess what, to see if I could intuit that, because you can feel the duality of them while you're reading them, right? Like, yes, you can feel that they would absolutely work with instrumentation. You can feel that they would work sung, right? But they still fucking work as poetry. Like, there's some really wonderfully vivid and morbid imagery in these pieces, and some really effective poetic turns of phrase, like the cause of death feeling cute. That's one we can feel. It's like, yeah, like that works. What that you could imagine that perfectly within the context of a song, right? But it also works as poetry. It has that kind of like it has that, like, I don't know, like that depth in the way deafness, excuse me, in the way that it's constructed, where you can feel it, right? Like, you could see it on the page and you could feel it on the page just as effectively as it being sung. And the roadside memorial image in the first poem is so vivid, and the succubus poem is so like upsetting and hilarious at the same time. These
Thank
are
you.
just these are great pieces. And I do hope you put them to music at some point too.
Yeah, I've got music for them and stuff. Yeah, I just kind of, I wanted to publish them to just make sure I did it next
Yeah.
year. So
Yeah, no, I definitely get that.
Hey, can I ask, where were you in Tulsa and what year?
oh God. Shucks, that's a really good question. My band played on the top floor of a parking garage. That's all I remember. But yeah, downtown Tulsa, man, it was so scary. I remember just like
When was this?
like early 2000s, I think.
Oh yeah, it
Yeah.
probably would have been scary then. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you live there?
Yeah, I live in Tulsa right now, but
Oh, you do? Oh, crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have like, yeah, I'm really. Do you know this photographer? Do you know this book, The Age of Adolescence, about all these old black and white like greaser photos taken in Tulsa?
I've heard of that.
It's
don't
one of my
at the time.
favorite books of all time, but it's really evocative of just the strangeness that place
That's very
encapsulates.
strange.
Yeah.
All right, that's all I wanted to know.
Yeah.
Thanks though.
Thank you.
Those were great. Thank you, Gabe.
Thanks, guys.
So we have had a couple of people sign up here, which is good. So we won't be ending at right at 9 o'clock here. But so next, I believe John is going to be reading a piece written by Jan. Do I have that right?
Yeah. But first, I'm gonna read something else.
Okay. So you have a piece of
I
your
got
own and a
yeah.
piece that was written by Jan.
Well, yeah. You see, I being in Hollywood all the time, I don't have a bunch of time to write like new pieces. But luckily, my old pieces are so good that you guys love it when I reread them. So I'm gonna do that.
Josh, is that you?
Chapter 1. I'm driving 10 hours and crossing an international border to read my fiction in front of maybe a dozen people for 6 minutes. A depressing thought at the best of times, but it's absolutely core-shattering as this megabus driver is totally sending it. It's Saturday night, and we're taking a discount red-eye trip between Toronto and New York. Sarah's using the Waze app to track the bus's speed. She tells me the driver is hitting 140 kilometers an hour at points. That soon becomes close to 90 miles per hour as we pass through Niagara Falls. This is a hostage situation. All right, I'm gonna read Jan's poem now.
John, I'm sorry. I didn't know you were going to do that. I'm sorry I stepped on your joke at the beginning there. Oh, oh my fucking God. Okay, John, it's all yours. It's all yours. Fucking read Jan's piece.
All right, this is by Jan. Fuckable boy. Parentheses, parody poem, but kind of sincere when oh wait, am I supposed to read that part, Jan? No. Okay. By Jan. Imagine all the lines of this poem are like weirdly spaced, and it makes no fucking sense, basically. They're all over the fucking place. And it's some sort of River Phoenix tribute poem. You all know who that is, right? River Phoenix? He's a fuckable boy, I guess. And the moon gets brought up naturally because the moon is one of those things that makes you feel very personal feelings. So personal that getting them across is very difficult for someone who writes River Phoenix tribute poetry. And somehow, your eyes bugging out of your skull, you see that this poem, ostensibly about River Phoenix, but actually about some form of River Phoenix related trauma, parentheses, he overdosed in like 1993, was nominated for an award, the Fig Leaf Top 50 in Poetry Award. What the fuck is that, you think? Fig Leaf Top 50. Top 50? That's a lot of fucking poems. And wait, what the fuck are these what wait, what the fuck? There are categories? River Phoenix tribute poetry is a category? There's enough River Phoenix tribute poetry that there's a top 50? Jesus Christ, you think? He's hot, but he's not that fucking hot. And he's literally a fucking skeleton at this point in time. They call themselves Phoenix heads, and they all want to have sex with him and worship him because he's a fuckable boy, dead so young, like Addis beneath the pine, castrated, inert, dead, and very, very fuckable.
John, your delivery on that was awesome. Jan, that was fucking hilarious. What a great fucking send up of like the weirdly insular lit world, right? With all these little journals and these little prizes, and they're, as Jan says in the poem, they're like highly specific nature, and they're often like weird, like borderline perverse or obviously like fetishistic nature of some of these journals and some of these prizes. It's just really funny shit. And also like, once again, like there's a great little like Tumblr. Jan, I could be wrong here, but I remember from some of our communications about Jan's pieces that we published over at Misery Tourism, I think Jan spent some time on Tumblr within the fandom communities, and you can definitely feel that. Too much time, Jan says. You can definitely feel that here too, that like the sick fascination with in this case, as you say in the poem, like a literal fucking skeleton, right? A kid who's been dead for decades now. But yeah, no, that was great stuff. Thank you, John. Thank you, John. Thank you, Jan, and thank you, Josh, wherever you are.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you, Josh, most of all.
We should always we need to just end Misery Loves Company every week just by thanking Josh. Okay, thank you guys. Demetrius, you said you had some poems you wanted to share with us. Wait, did Demetrius leave? Oh no, Demetrius left.
No, Demetrius.
Damn it, Demetrius.
Rip.
Man. Oh well, maybe later or maybe next time. In that case, Jeff had a piece he wanted to share. And right now, Jeff is at the end of the list. So if anyone has anything they want to share, just drop it in the chat and you can go after Jeff. Okay, Jeff, it's all yours.
It's a little impromptu, but this is some negative stuff I've been working on. Sorry, there's a few bad words too. Let me try to get my voice. All right. I titled this one, Keep Them in Lincoln. Generations of scum live down in Lincoln. They're middle-class fools who brag that they are rich and better than others. Worse, that town houses the fumbling peasants who think themselves pals with the Rockefellers. This is the only topsoil. The roots are far more criminal. The teachers rape, police rob, from surrounding villages. Parents Twitch stream the molestation of their children. Generations of pedophiles live like kings in Lincoln. In Lincoln, they breed infants exclusively for exploitation. These bitches and bastards aren't freeing any slaves. They are incubating eggs for future use. They put their kids up on that Instagram and start fraudulent GoFundMes. Every hour, they tweet out all the sick things that they do to them during the night. In Lincoln, everyone's teeth look like Dijon mustard. Lincoln makes Harvard University jealous. What are they gonna do to us next? Will it be Leary and the LSD? The endless prescribing of bat suit bioweapons? Will they exterminate all of the sad gay men of Manhattan again? Their AIDS took away the best of them. Sydney. When are the old, sorry, when we are old and wilting towards death, they will take all the insulin, leave us rotting in the fields like a pumpkin. They'll turn you into compost in Lincoln. The mothers put their kids on Social Security to pay for the father's poetry readings. Manuscripts are sent to literary journals. The fees paid from the porn ads. They make art that looks like the gift wrapping paper at Target, derived from their children's trauma. In Lincoln, they are all proud vegans that eat baby carrots. The fathers find the recipes and the mothers do the boiling. This is why we must keep them in Lincoln. You bastards, stay south. Stay south, bastards. Stay in Lincoln, where you are from. Put up signs to warn the good people of what hell awaits within the town lines of Lincoln. Tell your children never to play with the ones from Lincoln. If they keep pushing, we will burn down the mills in Lincoln. The mills where they make their products. We will report their Facebooks, take their TikToks away. Send these bitches back to Montreal where their grandmothers lay. Send the bastards to prison forever. Amen. Close the border. Build a wall around that Lincoln. If they jump over, they ought to know there's gonna be murder. Drag them by the napes of their necks. Make them beg for water. Put them down without thinking. Keep them in Lincoln. All right. That's all.
Jeff, holy shit. That's like Hal for the QAnon era. That's fucking incredible. I love the way that you've I'm trying to articulate something. You've kind of dislocated grievance from its source without losing the like material like details of the grievance, right? Like Lincoln is like this amorphous kind of thing. Like it could be Lincoln, Nebraska, right? It could be a town, but it also becomes like the entire, potentially the entire US government. And then from there, it just kind of becomes this anomalous source of like malice and fear, like this like boogeyman, right? but you do that in a way that never becomes completely abstract, right? Like Lincoln never becomes like a fable or a mythic kind of place because it's so like rooted in the like contemporary conspiracy theories and in like in TikTok and Facebook and in like all of the like conventional like day-to-day grievance politics that we experience on the internet. But because it's been abstracted just enough, you can't just like pin it down and be like, oh, this is strictly a QAnon poem, right? Or this is strictly about like Trumpism, or this is strictly about like, like billionaires raising babies for slaughter and like the Rothschilds or something, like it's just fucking abstract enough that it's chilling and that it rises to this like level of real artistry and real like and a real like psychic understanding, psychic in all senses of the term, I suppose, of this moment, right? It's just really fucking good, Jeff. This is fucking fantastic. Is this published somewhere right now, or?
No, I've just been kind of scratching around with it last couple of days. I probably gotta do a few things to it, but just something I've been thinking about. But thank you very much, William. I appreciate the compliments very much.
This is one of those pieces where it's like, damn, I fucking wish like a few months ago I would be like, well, you're sending this to us, right? If we're still open for submissions, I would be really trying to manipulate you into sending this. But either way, Jeff, it's a fucking amazing, it's an amazing piece. Thank you. And okay. Sam must have contacted Rudy. So Sam is up next. And then after Sam, Calvin just sent me a message. So Sam and then Calvin.
Hello.
Hey, Sam, how's it going?
Pretty well. Give me a second. Okay, this piece is called Making Hell. Give me a second. Oh, my buddy Grant and I always talk shit about this towny bar we always go to when we hang out, Ziggy's. Ziggy's is good, but we like to conflate it with a different bar nearby, the Cozy. I've seen 2 race riots there. During the first one, my buddy Perez rescued me from getting decked by a pool cue and my stupid white ass tried to break up a fight that started it. I was pretty wasted. An N-bomb already got dropped, loud enough for everyone to hear. Very arrogant of me to think I could put a stop to what was obviously going to happen. We all ran out on our tab, but like I said, we were all pretty wasted. I don't remember much the second time, but both riots happened on Dollar Shot Night, which was on Wednesdays, but sadly, they stopped doing Dollar Shot Night after the third Wednesday night race riot occurred. I'm not sure why. Cozy is a bar I only ever end up at 2 a.m. and I always catch a ride with someone else, and they're always driving drunk. Usually it's my buddy Grant. Anyhow, me and Grant don't call the Cozy, we call it Shitties, or Shitties with 2 Ds, a la Shitty Ziggy's, but there's no real relation. The real Shitties, the Cozy, has a polite, attentive staff, but they're plagued by a grim clientele because the real Shitties, the Cozy, is the only place in town you can drink until 3 a.m. on a Friday or a Saturday. But at me and Grant's made up Cozy, you can only smoke in the bathroom. Not on the porch, not inside. You can only smoke in one commode in the men's bathroom with the door shut, and someone else better be taking a shit. And you better not know them, or we, the shitty staff, will call the police. This rule gets more elaborate, but I'll move on. At the real Shitties, the Cozy, you get what you order, but at me and Grant's Shitties, you can only order a warm IPA for $10, and you sit on deck chairs, and the staff yells at you if you're on your phone. Unless you want an IPA, in which case you get served Bud Light. There is one hard liquor at Shitties, and that's Kamchatka. But it's not real Kamchatka, it's just Everclear diluted in one flush shitty smoking section commode water, down to anywhere between 60 to 80%. Vodka is supposed to be 40%, but we only hire distillers that are passionate about doing a shit job at Shitties. And if you're so down bad that you actually want a shot of Kamchatka, we serve you a shaken Absolute Martini in a pristine glass that's coated in ice cold vermouth, and it's on the house. So much for the gustatory experience with Shitty's mixology. On to the staff. The vetting and interview process for working at Shitty's is mad baroque, which is to say that it's shitty. You can only work at Shitty's if you have a PhD, specifically in a different field than any of your future coworkers, so that you can't make small talk easily. And also, you can't care about the subject. You just sort of have to have done the PhD because you sort of fell into it, and Shitty's has to be your second job. To serve drinks at Shitty's, you basically have to be a tenured professor. I'll get to the why and how Shitty's is fully staffed with tenured professors in a moment, but I need to discuss the staff rules first. Staff rule number 1 at Shitty's is that you are required to be on your phone at all times, specifically doing something that is a better use of your time than serving toilet vodka and Absolute Martinis and warm IPAs and Bud Lights to upset customers at Shitty's. This rule is strictly enforced so that all staff are properly annoyed by and rude to all Shitty's customers at all times, because all Shitty's customers obviously deserve to be treated this way. Shitty's is mostly staffed by divorcees, incidentally. Staff rule number 2 is that every shift at Shitty's, a randomly selected server will be given a small prescription bottle of Russian Xanax that server must have sold out to customers, and only to customers, by the end of their shift, or they will go to jail. Your coworkers get a bonus if they help management lie to the cops about it so that Shitty's can press charges. Staff rule number 3 is that Shitty's is open carry, but only for staff. Part of the Shitty's uniform is open carrying a loaded Glock because there's no safety on a Glock. But, and this is crucial, Shitty's servers are required to not have a gun license. In order to open carry at Shitty's, you must not have a gun license. In order to be a Shitty's employee, you must be breaking at least one law at all times on any Shitty's premises. Though go-getters that manage to break several laws at once consistently will get and exceeds expectations during their mid-year review. As long as the particular law is broken, don't involve selling Russian Xanax to customers or lying to the police about your colleague being ordered to sell Russian Xanax to customers. Shitty's management, i.e. me and Grant, frown on that kind of double dipping. Rule number 3.1 is that if you are caught double dipping, then you have to wear a t-shirt with a racial slur on it for the duration of your shift. Rule number 3.2 regarding open carrying, Shitty's management, i.e. me and Grant, will make accommodations for tenured professors that do have gun licenses in order to hire them on, but me and Grant haven't worked out the details yet. I believe it will involve juggling. Most importantly, rule number 4 is that any Shitty's customer that has had more than 15 drinks is allowed to hold any server's gun. Our corporate motto, as Shitty's is obviously owned by a European conglomerate, is that everyone is welcome, even us. But you can't tell anyone that corporate motto. That's rule number 6, but I forgot to mention. This motto is taken so seriously by Shitty's management, i.e. me and Grant, that we, i.e. me and Grant, hire actors to play customers who are friendly with the staff so that Shitty's looks cool enough for people to come to and then not feel cool enough about. The actors playing the customers are also paid to be mean to the bar staff when out of character, 1 hour before and 1 hour after their shift. Pay for all starts at $750,000 a year because Shitty's has shittily managed finances. Also, this is how we are staffed by adjunct professors. But, and this is important, Shitty's does not offer healthcare. Shitty's heavily recommends that you do not have healthcare if you work at or are a regular at Shitty's. If your healthcare provider finds out you work at or have even stepped inside of a Shitty's, you are immediately considered high risk and your insurance rate quadruples, because rule number 7 at Shitty's, which I forgot to mention, is that all staff are required to present their manager with a positive COVID test at the beginning of each month in order to be put on schedule. Employee contracts are binding for 4 years, unless your first name is David, in which case feel free to quit whenever. Me and Grant don't know any Davids. Company car and phone are provided and also mandatory. All employee transportation must take place in a Shitty's provided 1996 Honda Civic color beige, and all transportation to work must be live tweeted to the @Shitty's Shit Bar Fucking Shit Twitter account as said employee drives their 1996 Honda Civic color beige from their Shitty's provided iPhone 6. It's shit luck working here. Regardless, welcome to the team. We look forward to working with you.
Oh my God.
It sounds kind of fun. Like, come on, it does.
I would not. I mean, I don't. I actually, we need to add. I need to doing a poll here in the chat. Would you or would you not work at Shitty's? Jed says yes. Micah says yes. Malay, fuck, everyone would work. I would not. Oh, we've got what? We've got Rudy says no because he'd have to be in a PhD program. That's true. That's true. I dropped out of grad school and I would not go back just to work at Shitty's. Oh my God, Sam, that was fucking hilarious. I love the like anthropological level of detail you put into your pieces. And in this one, every single detail was so fucking funny. The having to live tweet you drive to work.
You have to. I didn't get specific on that one, but I think I want it to be like you got to tweet at like every stop. And you're tracked for GPS, so if you hit a stoplight, we'll know.
And everything about having to open carry drink, and then after any customer who drinks 15 drinks gets to hold the gun. Anyway, it's the whole thing. It's unbelievably hilarious, Sam. What are you gonna do with this piece? Is this going somewhere?
I don't know. My
It's
friend
gotta go
Grant and I
somewhere.
actually do. My friend Grant in real life and I actually do this. And there is a bar called the Cozy, and there's another bar called Ziggy's, and we call the Cozy Shitties. So.
Oh shit!
It's gotta go somewhere.
It does.
It really does.
This is too good to sit in your
Sam.
fucking sock drawer or something.
Sam, you need to bundle these together into some kind of Samverse, because like a lot of your stories have the same almost scientific level of detail, I'd say. And they all feel, it feels like you ever see Brazil, the movie about the bureaucracy with fucking all this shit? I love that fucking movie, but it feels like that, but for like everyday just kind of malaise, like just shitty, just everyday like garbage life.
That sounds like a good movie.
It's pretty
seen
awesome.
it now.
It's like procedural shittiness. Like I don't know any other way to describe it, and it's highly detailed. Like fuck the Marvel universe. I want the Samverse.
Right on.
Fuck yeah.
I'll keep plugging away at it. All right.
Definitely do. All right. Thank you, Sam. So last up tonight, unless I missed somebody, last up tonight is Calvin.
Hey. Can
Hey,
you guys hear
Calvin,
me?
how's it going? Loud and clear.
Good.
You're sideways,
what-
but that's fine. I can hear you clearly.
Sideways. Well, I'm like on my phone and my computer at once. So annoying.
Don't worry about it. It's fine. Oh, there, you're good. You're good.
This is from this novel I've been revisiting called it's called Banned from Bob's Island. And it's kind of about my second cousin, Bob. I mean, it is about him. All right. I was doing a college visit. I was staying with Bob. Bob had somehow gotten a job at this terrible Southern college that I was visiting. I found myself having breakfast with Bob and Judy, his wife, in Spartanburg, South Carolina. I was a senior in high school, and like I said, it wasn't a good college, but somehow I still didn't get in. And I think that has something to do with Bob. Not that Bob told them not to let me in. It was more that Bob had a terrible reputation, and they were only employing Bob because Tom, Bob's father, was paying them to do so. Bob worked in the accounting department. I don't know what his title was, but I doubt he had any real responsibility. I was wearing my light beige, nearly white corduroy pants and a white Oxford shirt and an unlined olive cotton blazer. Bob had on something similar. I don't remember what Judy was wearing. Judy was Bob's wife. More than likely something yellow and matronly. In case you're wondering, the college is called Wofford. So we were just chatting and having a little breakfast before heading out. Bob was speaking to his wife with a lot of authority, telling her about his plans for me. He was feeling extra confident that morning. My presence had given him this. Well, it's all settled. We're headed to the Gold Club. I'm not sure when we'll be home, but don't wait up, Bob announced proudly at breakfast to his wife. I knew this was the plan, but I figured we'd keep that between us. I didn't understand why Bob had to tell his wife that we'd be at the strip club / whorehouse all night for some undefined amount of time. Bob spoke in this very slow Southern accent, but Bob was hardly Southern. He sounded like he'd had a stroke, but he was born in Boston. Nobody in this house is going to any Gold Club, Judy shouted. Judy, unlike Bob, wasn't some false Southerner, so she certainly had her Southern standards that had nothing to do with reality. By that I mean she didn't care what Bob or any man did with his time, as long as he never spoke of it around her, and it stayed out of the papers. But Bob got defensive. Well, I'm supposed to show Jasper around Spartanburg, and he's got this fake ID. So we're going to put it to use. You see, when you got something that works, you put it to use. And Bob wasn't being funny. According to his logic, he was just using common sense. If I wasn't in town, he'd be picking up hookers for next to nothing on the east side. But he figured my visiting was a great excuse to spend an evening at a pretty classy little club. Bob had attempted, and he kept trying, to get his own boys interested in prostitutes or at least strip clubs. They were, like me, high school age at the time, but per Bob, they were both uptight pussies. This is what he told me when he picked me up from the little Spartanburg airport the day before. But then a minute later, he conceded that maybe it's for the better, and he left it at that. I knew what he meant. Maybe it was for the better that they weren't so interested in that sort of thing. Of course, he was always flip-flopping on this point. Sometimes they were a couple of worthless little bastards because of their lack of interest, and other times they were overall pretty good kids. Judy had spent years attempting to adopt two Aryan boys of pure Protestant origin, but apparently this was, at least at the time, a difficult thing to confirm with any real certainty. Judy and Bob were both Aryan, so of course they wanted the boys to match, but they didn't. I guess they had to settle on a pair of brown hair, brown eyed boys, but they were, thankfully, of pure Protestant origin. And at this point, as we sat at the breakfast table with Judy, we'd already been by the Gold Club. We'd driven there straight from the airport. All this happened back in the late 90s, back when people could greet you right at the gate as you walked off the plane. But per my father's instructions, Bob wouldn't be meeting me at the gate. My father had been the arranger of this trip. He'd made the calls right in front of me on his Motorola cell phone as he received his chemo treatment. And I think the chemo was making him crazy because he knew Bob was also crazy and possibly dangerous, which he found amusing. It was some sort of prank on me, something he got a real kick out of. He told me Bob would be waiting in his car just outside the American Airlines terminal, and he gave me a description of his car. My father and everyone in our family called Bob Robbie, a name Bob hated. Apparently, Robbie will be in some kind of station wagon right in front of the American Airlines terminal. Robbie's a little strange. Actually, he's completely nuts, but he's a fairly nice guy. You'll see. His father's in bad shape, very serious cancer, much worse than mine. He's not going to make it. I'm sure Robbie's excited about that, but you'll see for yourself. You'll see what bad cancer looks like. What I've got is nothing compared to what Tom has. My father didn't consider his own cancer, an especially vicious and rare form of leukemia that had spread to his brain, to be particularly serious. And he'd take every opportunity to tell you how terrible someone else's was compared to his own. It drove him crazy to think that someone might think him ill or sick. You see, everyone's got cancer. It's in all of us. It's in you at this very moment. And the cancer you've got, well, I can't say for sure, but I'll wager that it's quite serious. I knew better than to argue with my father. Yeah, I bet I have it pretty bad, I agreed, trying to put the topic to rest, but also equally trying to upset him. Yeah, you don't have to be all sarcastic about it. Anyway, Uncle Tom's a great guy, had one hell of a career. I'm sure Robbie can't wait for him to die. He glared at me as he spoke these words because he knew I and nearly everyone, except these phonies who worshiped my father, felt the same. Bob's wagon was parked right in front of the terminal. The roadmaster was a giant station wagon. It was the latest and last station wagon ever produced by Buick. The long neck of a classical bass, or as Bobby referred to it, a bass fiddle, hung out the back of the roadmaster through a partially shattered back window. Bob had all the windows rolled up, but he didn't seem to be in the car. So I stuck my head through the passenger side window, and there was Bob. He had his seat reclined fully back and was fast asleep. I was nervous about just entering the car unannounced. I'd never met him before, so I tried to wake him up before opening the door. Also, back then, people were obsessed with carjackings, and everyone was really on edge about getting carjacked. Robbie, I said rather coyly, but to no avail. I tried at a higher volume, but still nothing. He was snoring, and the song Take That Job and Shove It by Johnny Paycheck was playing at low volume. Robbie, I called again, this time he was screaming. Then I thought maybe I should call him Mr. Truth or something like this, but I didn't know for sure. I finally just banged on the roof of his car with an empty pewter flask that I'd recently purchased from the Orvis catalog, and he woke up and looked around rapidly. He seemed startled. It was apparent that he initially didn't know where he was. Then he noticed me. I was still outside the car, standing at his window. I'm waiting for someone, he said in a grumpy tone before reclosing his eyes and settling back into his nap. I was startled by his southern accent. I never heard anything like it. I could barely understand him. It was mumbly and high pitched. His accent wasn't one of these floral or genteel accents that effortlessly elongates everything. It clipped every word down to a single syllable and then blended them all. I've since met his brother and sister, and neither of them have anything like a southern accent. I've always envied my friends with rich and alcoholic parents. Everyone in my family, even distant relatives, as far as I know, rose early and never napped despite massive hangovers and made a good effort to expand on wealth until 6 p.m. And those days add up and things get done and minor empires are built, even with his cancer. My father had built and sold many businesses. I did have other lazy relatives besides Bob, but they were on my mother's side. My mother's brother, for example. His name was Jim, but he wasn't a drunk. He was a big time Christian who was always trying to turn his life around and make a fresh start as a used car or vacuum salesman, and all with Jesus' help. Jim was always short on money and having to borrow from my grandfather. But unlike Bob, he kept his laziness and lack of impulse control a secret. He was always trying to convince everyone that he was working around the clock. He was always in a big hurry. But according to my mother, he lived in someone's garage and spent all his time in coffee shops reading the Bible or at church. Bob always had what he called a little outlaw country, playing at low volume. Something about living on your own terms, despite all the suffering it supposedly inflicts upon the innocent. But fuck all them, because a man does what a man does. It might have been Paycheck or David Allan Coe, but it doesn't really matter because they all sound the same. I extended a hand Bob's way and he barely shook it. I tried to give him a firm one to show him where I stood, but was met with something soft and indifferent. It was a grumpy handshake, very immature and defiant. But he wasn't grumpy about my waking him for long. Apparently, it had been a very satisfying nap. Who knows how long he'd been sleeping out there? I joined him in the car. The car's leather felt oily or slick. It also smelled like musk or some kind of cheap fragrance. It seemed freshly coated in baby oil, and there was a massive open bottle of Tylenol PM in the cup holder. You'd think we'd be on our way, but you can't rush Bob. He doesn't work like that. I guess for the moment, Bob didn't feel like driving. After all, he'd just woken up from a nap. Never mind that all around us, people were being picked up and dropped off, the humdrum of the world, people trying to get places. And I'm not saying anyone was in a huge rush. Nobody was honking or racing off. After all, this was the Deep South. Only the messed up and toothless were in a hurry, which is why they're so easy to spot down here. Either way, this wasn't really a place to just sit and talk in the car. But for now, Bob just wanted to chat right there in front of the American Airlines gate. Boy, I was really out. Do you know what time it is? The giant radio clock in the middle of the dash said 2:30. It's 2:30, I said. But he wasn't listening. He moved on to another topic. He didn't care about time. He just heard people ask this and figured he'd do the same. My father's dying, he said matter-of-factly, as he put the car into drive. He didn't check his mirrors, so he nearly collided with a passing vehicle as he pulled out and changed lanes. The driver gave Bob a long honk, to which Bob said, "Oh, that's all right, honey," under his breath. Bob was this big, handsome Aryan with a baby face who wore lots of Land's End. He even had baby hair, and by that I mean it's so blonde it's nearly white, and it's very soft and fine, but he's got a full head of it. He's got these very small eyes, very little and narrow, always straining, but never looking at anything in particular. It's the only part of him that seems to be exerting any effort, but to no apparent end. Bob didn't seem to hear me when I said, "I'm sorry to hear about your father." He also wasn't paying attention to the road. He only seemed to remember that he was driving when another driver honked and screamed at him, or threw something in his car, and then he'd quickly get bored with it, with having to pay attention to the road, and then he'd focus on something else. He started looking through his CD collection, which he kept in the sun visor just above his head. The CD he was playing was skipping. "You like David Allan Coe?" he asked. Bob didn't wait for me to respond. He followed himself up with, "I saw a Paycheck in Vegas last summer. I get out there a lot." He said this with a sort of pride, as if it made him a badass. Then he put on Johnny Paycheck, but the CD wouldn't play. The stereo just said air. "Not exactly a family trip, if you know what I mean," he said, implying something nefarious and better left unspoken for now. He was feeling me out. My main interest at the time was boozing, and Bob struck me as a heavy drinker, which excited me. "What brings you to Spartanburg?" he asked. I found this question alarming, as my father had supposedly arranged this college visit and had been in communication with Bob. "I'm here to visit Wofford College. Don't you work there?" Wofford? Wofford was clearly not his favorite topic. Suddenly he seemed far away. He looked to be on the verge of weeping, but then he sucked it up and put on a brave face. "That Wofford, well, it's a tough little school," he said reluctantly, conceding to some old sadness. I didn't know what he meant by tough. At this point, we were on the highway and Bob was driving around 25 miles an hour. Then we were off the highway and on some depressed-looking main street. Everything was boarded up. "If you were a little older, we go there," Bob said, as we passed the old building the only building that did not appear abandoned. It was a freshly painted bright yellow warehouse with a neon sign on a very tall pole that said girls. "Well, I've got a fake ID," I said without a moment's hesitation. "Fake ID, huh? Well, let's stop in." We pulled into the giant gravel parking lot. "Let's see that ID," he said. He sounded nervous. He inspected it for a moment, hardly looking at it before handing it back and exiting the car. This was when I first noticed Bob's limp, and he was wearing very short navy blue shorts and heavy black brogues with nearly black socks pulled up just below his knees. His left foot pointed unnaturally out to the side, nearly horizontal. Despite this, he moved pretty quick. I had to half jog to stop there.
This is such a great character study. You've created a really indelible character here in Bob. Like, you can feel him, like, like, I have met this guy, right? We've all met some variation of this guy, and the way that you layer the details on here as you like gradually reveal his character is so effective, because every detail clicks into place. Everything makes complete, like, personal and psychological sense. And this guy gets richer. And I love how near the end of this piece, there's that moment of actual pathos when he's thinking about his job, right? When he's thinking about the college. And it's so perfect. It's so perfect because you've spent all this time cultivating him as this kind of like crass and mostly comic kind of oath of a character, right? And you get that you do get the moment of real humanity and sadness with him, but it's about his job, right? It's about like, I don't know. It's so perfect. This is just a really, really great piece that really like just layers this character, and it just a really fascinating and effective way, Calvin. So it fucking rocks, man.
Well, thanks. I've got about 45,000 words, so we'll see.
Wow.
See how it goes. Trying to get up to 90,000 words.
That you oh, sorry. No, more power to you, man. When you get, oh God, when you're deep in writing something and you know you have so much more ahead of you, that for me anyway, oh, that's always so rough, right? Once you pass the point of no return where you're like, well, I've written so much, I can't throw this out. And then you think, oh, but I'm only like, you know, a 10th of the way there, or a 20th of the way there. That's fucking rough. But what you've shared so far is really good. And as I said, you can just feel this character. Oh, and even the supporting characters, like the narrator's dad and his weird, like, pathological way of dealing with his cancer, where like everyone else's cancer is worse than his. That feels really psychologically real too, right? But yeah,
It's kind of like a Bruce Wagner thing. Bruce Wagner has a lot of stuff like that with people with disease, and you know how it kind of like turns them into like, you know, terrible in a new way.
Right.
The disease doesn't just infect, you know, them in like the sense that you would think, you know.
Yeah, it warps them psychologically somehow. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it was an awesome piece, Calvin. Thank you.
Thanks.
And everyone in the chat is saying fucking Bob. Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess that's it. I think we'll call it there. I don't think anyone oh, excuse me. Oh, sorry about coughing there. I think we'll call it there. I don't think anyone in the chat. Rudy, no one in the chat, no one else in the chat said they wanted to read, right?
Nope, not that I've seen.
Okay. I think we'll end there then. As usual, I'll keep the Zoom call up for a little while for people to hang out, but we're going to end the reading portion. So yeah, if you're watching this on YouTube after the fact, this has been Misery Loves Company. We do this every Friday night, 8 p.m. Eastern time, 5 p.m. Pacific. You can tell that I'm struggling not to start coughing, but yeah, 8 p.m. Eastern time, 5 p.m. Pacific. You can we tweet out the link on Twitter for as long as Twitter still exists anyway. From our account at Misery Tourism. Anyone is welcome to come and read, and anyone is welcome to come and just hang out and have a good fucking time. All right. I'm fucking done here. I'm belaboring this thing. Thank you so much to everyone who read tonight. Just a great variety of pieces, some very funny pieces tonight, and also some very moving and effective pieces. So yeah, thanks guys. This has been great.